Hey guys, it's Chris. Thanks for joining us today. If you haven't noticed, we've kind of been on a little bit of a content break the last few weeks. That's because our team worked really hard on our most recent video, which was the Detect, Activate, and Alert video that talked about RVI brakes and how they keep you safe on the road. If you haven't checked out that video, we'd really encourage you to. I'll put it up in the corner up here. But it's a great video and we wanted to give them a little bit of a break. That was a lot of hard work, several months. And so we're back though, and we're gonna talk about something more product related this week. We're gonna talk about the RVibrake3 settings page and what each one of those different fields mean. So let's get started. So the very first thing in the settings app that you're going to see, and by the way, the app that we're looking at today, if you're starting on the main screen where you boot up your tablet, down below, once you have a brake paired, you do have to have your brake paired, which we have other videos on, but once your brake is paired, below the drive mode button, you'll see a number of apps. One of those will say RVibrake3, so you'll want to go into that to change any settings for your brake. So the very first field you're going to see up at the top is going to be brake type, and that's going to be either vacuum or active, and whichever one is red is the one that is selected currently. Every vehicle on the market today has either a vacuum or an active braking system. That's what we're talking about here, your vehicle's brake type, not the brakes. The brake is just a simple air-driven system, so it's going to do the same thing regardless. It doesn't have differences in brake type, but your vehicle does. So your vehicle has either a vacuum system, which has a traditional master booster, or it has an active system, which basically means that your pedal always has live assist on it that's powered by the vehicle's computer electronics. So that's the difference in those two. And based on that, the brake is going to need to press differently. The difference in force required for an active pedal versus a dead pedal, we would call it, in a vacuum situation, is vastly different. And we'll look at that in just a second. But this is going to be the most important setting on this page, because if you don't set it correctly, you could have a situation where your tires lock up, you could wind up with some bald spots. We obviously don't want that. It's scary, first of all, but then also it causes damage. And again, it's not necessarily the fault of the brake, but it can happen if this setting is set incorrectly. So definitely make sure. A great way to know what brake type you have if you're not sure, we recommend this test to folks all the time. Basically turn your car off, because that's really key. Anytime that you have your car's ignition on, if you have a vacuum system, your master booster is being constantly re-energized. So you need your vehicle fully off, as it would be in your flat toe configuration. And then what you would do is you would just press your brake pedal with either your hand or your foot several times, probably 5 to 10 times. And what you're looking for is a difference in the resistance. So if you have a vacuum system, after about the third press, the third or fourth one, you're going to feel a significant amount of resistance. It's going to be extremely noticeable. If your brake pedal just remains soft to the touch, if you can just continue to press it over and over and over again with absolutely no change, you have an active system, one that just always has that live assist. So that's how you can know which brake type you have. So next up is going to be brake pressure. Now, it's important to note that all 4 of these ranges that you'll see under both active or vacuum, none of them, even the maximum pressure setting, as long as you're in the correct brake type, none of them will ever cause any damage to your tires. So the heaviest setting can never skid your tires, and the lightest setting will always break your towed vehicle. It's more a matter of preference once you get past that first setting. Again, brake type is extremely important. Brake pressure is a matter of personal preference. So once you're in those settings, there's 4 different options under each braking type. So under active, we have them listed by PSI. There's 5, 10, 15, and 20. And then under vacuum, we have them listed by car type. So we have compact car, small SUV, large SUV, and full-size truck. Again, even under full-size truck on vacuum, as long as you're in the correct umbrella setting, that correct brake type setting, full-size truck will not cause damage. Compact car will still brake your vehicle. So there's no need to stress about what setting you're in. They'll all work. Again, it's a matter of what is right for you. So we would encourage you, just take a quick drive around maybe the block or just down the street or something when you get a moment, and test those settings out. Feel out which one is right for you. And maybe you're fine. Maybe you just say, well, on my first trip, I'll just play around with it. That's totally fine too. But essentially just play around with these settings, see what feels right to you. Because everyone's gonna have a different preference. We have some folks that tow a full-size truck and they're on compact car, and vice versa. Some folks will choose to tow a compact car and it's on full-size truck, and both are fine. If you're in the active setting, again, you have PSI. And again, it's a similar concept. 5 PSI would be for lighter vehicles, 20 PSI would be for heavier vehicles. It's just the amount of pressure that the brake is pushing with when it does activate. That's the only difference here. Now, again, going back to what we talked about with brake type, where that's very important, the difference in PSI is vast when we're talking active and vacuum vehicles. So again, we have the 15 to 20 range for active cars. The lowest setting on vacuum, which is compact car, is 45 PSI. That's the minimum. So it's more than double the heaviest setting on the active side of things. So you can see how big that gulf is when we're talking about brake type. That's why brake type is incredibly important. I'm gonna keep saying it because it is. Make sure you have that setting set correctly. So below the different brake pressure settings, you're going to have a brake test button. Now this button is just a button that essentially pushes at the maximum pressure for whatever setting you're currently on. And it's a great way to just ensure that your brake is fully set up, it's ready to go, that kind of thing. And then beneath that brake test button, we have a sensitivity setting. Now there's sometimes some confusion over the sensitivity setting because we used to have on RVi1 and RVi2, it was low, medium, and high. We no longer have a low, medium, and high. It's two settings. There's normal, which is our normal algorithm for braking. And we've very finely tuned this algorithm. So it's not going to brake every time that you're pressing on the brake pedal. And in fact, in some cases, if you're a very conservative driver, it may not activate very often at all. It's basically looking for a rate of deceleration as you're advancing towards a stop. How fast are you slowing down? If you're slowing down very quickly, the brake knows it needs to come on and help you. If you're slowing down very gradually, it knows that it doesn't. Again, we talk about that in more depth in that detect, activate, and alert video. But that's our normal sensitivity setting. That's just kind of what the brake is set to by default. And then we have a setting that is panic only. And that setting is intended if you feel like the normal algorithm is a bit too much, you don't really feel like you maybe need that much help, then you can set it to panic only. And in those cases, you're pretty much gonna have to stand on your brakes for the brake to activate. It's kind of a brake glass in case of emergency setting where the brake is only going to activate in a panic stop when you truly, truly need its help. So that's what panic only is. But normal is pretty much gonna work in probably 90% of cases, so you can just leave that on the default and you're typically gonna be just fine. And then below this setting on the screen, you're going to see two other additional options. They're pretty quick, pretty straightforward. The first is gonna be Wi-Fi connectivity. It's just a little Wi-Fi symbol. It's showing you how strong that connection is to your command center, tablet, and hub. Now, it's really important to note, and we've talked about this in many other videos, the tablet and hub being connected has nothing to do with your brake's functionality. Your brake will work, period, as long as it's set up and connected to power and you've heard it say RVibrake ready. That's it. That's all that it needs. It does not need your tablet and hub. The tablet and hub are for you, but it is going to show you whether or not your braking system is connected to the tablet and hub on that screen. And then below that option, we have a drive mode slider, and that basically turns your RVi3 on or off in the drive mode screen. Now, this is the RVibrake3 settings screen. If you were to back out of that and go to that big button that's up top, that's your drive mode. And that's where you'll see your braking system. It's where you'll see your tire patrol all on one screen. So let's say you were towing with your tire patrol, but you weren't towing with your towed vehicle maybe. Maybe you have tire patrol on your motorhome, but you're not taking your towed vehicle this trip. Well, you don't want the RVi3 to constantly be alarming you because that's what your command center is gonna do. If it's paired to it, it's gonna wanna look for that in the drive mode screen. So in order to get around that alarm, you would just go into your RVi3 settings app, go down to that drive mode slider and just turn it off temporarily while you're on your trip. And then the next time that you go to use it, you would just turn it right back on. So really straightforward, really easy to use. But those are those bottom two settings that you'll see on that screen. So that's it, guys, pretty straightforward. We just wanted to walk through the settings screen for the RVibrake3. We know sometimes there can be some confusion. And obviously we use a much more detailed display than a lot of other braking systems. So sometimes it needs a little bit of explanation. And so we wanted to make sure that we did that. If you've got further questions on this or anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to help. We're available by phone, chat, or email. In the meantime, guys, happy RVing.